reach out of faith between all walks of life, all faith, because at the end, we're all talking about something that speaks to us, that moves us in a grander way to keep us in a peaceful, joyful life, to keep us in there. And you know, one of the things that always comes up for me, or it has recently, is, you know, that quote, I think in Latin, it's from the many one, but I like to say from the one many. And I think this discussion is exactly that. It's from the one, from this one source that is, there are many ways of interpreting, of seeing it, of enjoying it, and how it speaks to you is actually the way that it really is, how it resonates in life as well. So I have to say, I'm truly honored and very grateful to have these spiritual powerhouses be a part of all of this. And you know, as Karen said, we are doing this, Reverend Karen said this, we're doing this through Spirit Uncensored. And, you know, our motto here, I am a board member at Spirit Uncensored, and our motto here is that we are a spiritual playground, which means we love to commune with spirit and life, and however it shows up in faith and expression, whether it, you know, however it chooses to show up. And in this playground, we get to all commune, we get to all converse, we get to all celebrate all our diversities, our similarities. So today is about that, and in honor of Hispanic Heritage Month. I am a very proud Mexican-American, and so I was very excited about doing an event during Hispanic Heritage Month that highlights some really amazing people doing very different things in their community. They are also of Latino, Latina, Latinx heritage, that are of Hispanic heritage. So today we have with us, I'm so excited, so excited. We have Bishop Carcaño, from the United Methodist Church in Sacramento. It's Sacramento, Nevada. And I'll give you a brief description of all of our guests, and then afterwards I'll have them each speak a little bit about what their tenets are, their philosophies, and a little bit about themselves, because I'm grateful to know who these individuals are. I'm grateful to have had the opportunity to meet them, really, because they've done some amazing work. The only person that we don't have here right now, but he did send in a message and we will hear from it, is Rabbi Rigoberto Viñas. He is celebrating Sukkot and therefore is unable to get online. This is a time where there's a lot of reflection. It is the celebration of tabernacles. It's when, I believe this is when the Jews left Egypt, and this is they create altars in celebration of that. So this is what he is celebrating, and therefore unable to attend, but was able to send a message for us. So I will start with Bishop Minerva Carcaño. She is a third-generation Methodist, and she has a slew of accolades. So I will just mention a few, but first of all, she has been ordained for 43 years, which she doesn't look like she's ordained for 43 years at all. Wouldn't you all say? I don't think so. But she has been ordained for that long. She's been doing her work all over. We were just recently, and when we were together, talking about the fact that she actually spoke at the House of Representatives Judiciary Committee on Immigration and Border Security. She grew up in the Rio Grande Valley of Texas, which I'm from San Antonio. So we had a little conversation about that, and in a little bit we'll talk about with Imam Parada. He's from Houston. So she is on the board of, she's on the Commission on Christian Unity and Interreligious Concerns, this is a perfect avenue for it. She is on the Commission of Religion and Race and the International Clergy Women's Consultation. She is recognized as an immigrants' right activist and was a member of the founding class of the Auburn Senior Fellows. She has also written in Huffington Post and on the Hill. Bishop Carcaño has also been an advocate for the full rights and inclusion of the LGBTQIA+ community. She works diligently and hard in making sure that both the immigrants, the LGBTQ+ community is recognized and seen, but most of all, what Bishop Carcaño loves is being at home. She understands, she says, and I love this quote from her bio, ultimately, she has learned that living in God's house means fully living in God's amazing world, and which is exactly what she's done in her accomplishments. We also have with us from Washington, D.C. So she's up a little bit later than most of us are, and I'm so excited that she's here. She's done a lot of work with integration through CSL of diversity. This is Reverend Alex Escudero. She is from the D.C. area. She has worked in the United Nations, served in Africa, Central and South America, and she got her practitioner's license in 1999. From there, she was ordained as a minister and began CSL DC in 2009, which has grown and continues to grow, and her reach continues to grow as she partners with CSL and is in part of their, she's an officer in the Center for Spiritual Living Diversity Commission. So we are so grateful to have her here. We also have Imam Isa Parada. He is from Houston. He was born in New York and raised in Houston, a fellow Texan. I love that. We have a few Texans in the house. I know that for sure. And Isa Prada was actually born into a Roman Catholic family where he served as an altar boy for many years until he turned 19 and moved his faith and converted, accepting Islam as his faith when he was 19 years old. He received a scholarship to study the Islamic University of Medina from the Faculty of Theology, being the first graduate of Latino descent, which is a huge feat. And I think I forgot to mention Bishop Carcaño is the first Latina bishop in the Methodist Church as well. So we have a lot of first Latinos, which makes me so happy here. He has played a unique role in developing an educational program as the educational director and spiritual counselor of Islam in Español Centro Islámico, and he comes from us from Houston, from Islam in Spanish. So welcome each and every person here. I'm super excited to have them put their information also online, or I will put that for them so that you can see them when they have their service. And right now, as we're moving through a pandemic, obviously, we're able, like I said earlier, this is the miracle of having the pandemic. I can have people from Texas, Sacramento, and Washington, D.C. be a part of this. You know, it's amazing. So truly, I am grateful that each powerhouse is here today. And I would like to open this up. I failed to mention Rabbi Viñas. I did talk about him just a little bit, but Rabbi Viñas, who did leave us a short message to do an introduction of himself, which we will listen to a little bit later, to talk about he is a Sephardic rabbi and a scribe, and with a very interesting background, who comes from Miami, who also had he had a center in Yonkers, New York, and now lives in Miami and does his, as we all do now, services online. So we will welcome him a little bit later and play a clip of his message from all of us. But what I'd like to do right now is just open up this virtual floor so that each and every one of us can tell us a little bit. I know it's really hard to talk about what the tenets in your faith is in just about 5 minutes to present to people that may not have known it, but I'm going to ask you to do the difficult because I know you can. And I'll start, Reverend Alex, if you wouldn't mind starting, you're right next to me. So would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about religious science and New Thought?
Sure. I'm delighted. And I bet some of you have heard of Reverend Michael Beckwith. He came out of Centers for Spiritual Living and has grown quite a large spiritual center in Los Angeles. He, basically he and I studied the same ancient philosophies and also psychology and religion. And so the philosophy that I teach is called science of mind. And I'm always sort of careful when I say that because I don't know, I'm not super keen on the name, but basically we're spiritual and not religious. We're not dogmatic. Here in the Washington D.C. area, I've had the great pleasure to work with many people that are Islamic and Jewish and Methodist and from all backgrounds and faiths. And so what we try to do as a spiritual center is to create a place where everyone does feel welcome. And on Sundays, we typically now via Zoom, we typically will talk about the Bible, we'll talk about the Quran, we'll talk about Buddhism, and we'll use a topic and talk about metaphysics and invite people to contemplate. And we do pray, we do believe in God, and we basically believe in God as this consciousness, this energy, this wonderful positive vibe that we can all tune into no matter what our particular faith.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That's wonderful. And it's the same, Reverend Alex and I, she's also a religious science minister. And so I love the way you were very succinct in telling exactly what it is, because I love that we do celebrate all of it. So thank you very much for sharing. I'm going to move on to Bishop Carcaño. If you wouldn't mind, just if there's anything that you'd like to tell us about yourself, but really about the tenets, about what it is that the Methodist Church and how that is, if you could just give us a little bit.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. I felt such an embrace of love and of care as you, Liza, Reverend Liza, invited us, and as I've joined this panel before, the rest of you were brought on. So thank you. It's a great way to spend this day, this afternoon with all of you, and this evening for Reverend Alex. I'm a Christian. I have made a decision many, many years ago, in fact, as a child, to follow the way of Christ. For me, Christ is the revelation of God for me, for my life. I've seen the love of God through the teachings of Jesus. I'm a Methodist because my maternal grandmother became a Methodist along with all her sisters and her one brother. And the way that happened was that a Methodist reached out in love to my family, who were sharecroppers in South Texas, later became migrant workers and then farm workers, and now we're in a variety of different vocations and professions. But that's our history. And a Methodist reached out with great care for us in a time that was very racist, very bigoted, very discriminatory towards people who were brown, like me, even though we were the majority in that community. And it was that love that brought us to the Methodist Church. And it is that love that continues to hold us in this denomination. We say as United Methodists that we want to keep our hearts open and our doors open and our minds open to the work of God. We understand that we've caught a glimpse of God through Christ, but we don't know, none of us will ever know the totality of God, that presence of our Creator. We encounter the Creator as we engage in these conversations. I learned so much from each one of you about what you have seen of God, and I appreciate and value the opportunity to share what I have seen of God. Just yesterday, I was in a meeting for my area of United Methodist talking about, so how do we do the work of being intentional in terms of building relationships with people of other faiths, not just Christians, but the interreligious community, because it is so critical. We believe that together we are stewards of creation. And so we need to be in loving relationship with one another. As United Methodists, we say also that we are called to do no harm and to do all the good that we can and to stay in love with God. And staying in love with God is always about loving neighbor as well. They're inseparable. And we do value delving deeply into the disciplines of prayer and reading scripture and gathering for worship, all of those things. But we are committed to never allowing those things to be separated from our engagement in the world for the good of the world. We call that social holiness. And when we separate those things, then we've lost our way. And we need to always be connecting those. We're part of a connectional church. That means that every United Methodist church around the world, wherever we are connected to one another as part of that expression of love and mutual support and accountability, that we hold each other accountable for being people of love in the spirit of Christ. So this is just a rich moment, and I thank you for the opportunity to learn from everyone and to be able to share a bit as well.
Thank you, Bishop Carcaño. I love what you just said. We're stewards, spiritual stewards, and that's what we are really called to do in order to share. Is in order to be a steward, you have to really honor where you are, where you stand, and what you believe in. So thank you for your words. I appreciate that.
Thank
And
you.
thank you for being here. Listen, I will not stop saying how excited I am about the fact that Reverend Alex, Bishop Carcaño, and Imam Parada have said yes, and Rabbi Viñas as well. But this is I'm celebrating inside. I'm a little nervous, but I'm also celebrating. Most of it is celebrating inside. So thank you guys. Imam Parada, if you wouldn't mind, I'm super excited to introduce you, and which I have, but I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about, like I said, I know it's a short amount of time to really speak on the tenets, but what you can and a little bit about yourself, really would love that.
Sure. Well, first and foremost, I'd like to thank you and the organizers for inviting myself and alongside with Islam and Spanish to be a part of this blessed event. So my birth name is actually Christian. So my mother named me. Her name is Maria, right? So she named me for, after Christ. And I grew up as a Catholic, and when I came to Houston and I started to get involved in things that weren't appropriate, let's say, as a teenager, and I left the morals and values that my parents had taught me through, the teachings of Jesus. It took me a while to come back to a good place. And one thing that my mother always reminded me is, whatever you do what Jesus did. So once I embarked on my journey to try to find what was best for me in my spiritual, life, I found that Islam connected to me. And when I realized and read about that you have an opportunity as a servant of God to connect to God, just like all the prophets, Moses and Jesus and Abraham and Noah, and then learning about what we believe is the final messenger, Muhammad, peace be upon them, we realized, I came to the realization that I was given that opportunity as well. So kind of connecting it to the tenets of our faith, when one wants to become Muslim, the first thing that they do is our first pillar is that we testify that, that God is one, he has no partners in worship, and we serve him alone, just like all the messengers served him, and that Muhammad is the last messenger who had a similar message to these messengers of God that I just mentioned. And then you once you start to know who God is and trying to connect with him, one of our main pillars also is to pray at least 5 times a day. You're open to pray whenever you want, but it is a way to have that connection daily with God. We're human beings and we err, and we also need to be reminded of the blessings that we have. So having that connection with God every day, puts a person in check, making sure that they're living up to or trying to do their best to live up to what God wants from them. And when they make mistakes, they're able to go back to the one who's most merciful. One of the other pillars that, really connected to me when I was researching Islam was the ability to not only just give charity, but giving charity to specific groups of people that are in need and even more relevant in our day and age. Something I do with a lot of youth in college is remind them that don't look at just giving charity as, helping someone who's poor, someone who's in need, which is important without a doubt. But Houston, unfortunately, is one of the hubs of sex trafficking. So I mentioned to them to, be creative in the way that you want to help, people who are suffering and in need. And God tells us to help people who are in this state. So be sure that you're able to look beyond just helping the poor and needy, which is important, of course, but look at other avenues where you're able to support and help people overcome, these difficult situations. One of the other pillars that we have is fasting 1 month out of the year. And this is when, throughout the day, we refrain from drinking, from eating, and even couples, they're not intimate. So something that God, it's something that you need to do, right? Drink, eat, procreate in order to move forward. But something that is a of a blessing that God gives every one of us, we refrain from that for sometimes 15, 16, 17 hours. But it does remind us of, what we have every day, and not, take it for granted. And no doubt when we break our fast, it's one of the most blessed times of the day. But it does remind us throughout the day, right, of what we have, and reminding us that there's so many people out there that don't have what we have. And the final pillar, which I've been able to accomplish, is the pilgrimage to Mecca, which a Muslim, if he has the ability to do, make the pilgrimage once in their life. And it's amazing to be with 2 million people from different backgrounds, countries that I didn't even know existed, being able to pray to God, come together, and for 5 to 6 days you're together, just trying to improve yourself, and really being with a lot of people, and in that kind of group, it also makes you reflect upon how you need to improve in your character, because it's not easy being in that environment, especially if people from the West who are used to a certain way, right, of living and moving. When they go to a place where people from all over the world, different cultures, you have to get used to that and adjusted to it. And it teaches you how to be a lot more patient. So that's a summary of our tenets.
Thank you. I just have one quick question. How old were you when you did your trip to Mecca?
My first time, I was 1999. I was 22.
So shortly after you converted.
Yeah, it was about 2.5 years after I converted. I got the opportunity to go, and there were some nice people who had actually paid for myself, and one of my best friends who I grew up with also became Muslim. So it was a unique journey to go with a person that you know really well, and that was one of the reasons why I was attracted to go and learn, and and being able to go to the actual place where revelation came to the Prophet Muhammad. We were given that opportunity, so it changed my whole life, that moment that I arrived. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Imam Parada.
Sure.
So I wanted to introduce Rabbi Viñas. We also, just like this will end up in this, we will move this conversation also for later existence into Spirit Uncensored YouTube, so that people can visit there as well. Right now, that is exactly where we have Rabbi Viñas's video, but I wanted to introduce him here because he was so kind to be a part of this. He was super excited, as all of us are, I think, when we are in communion, when we are in connection, and when we are really celebrating what we are all talking about, which again is just a very different language of the very same thing, which is the love and the connection that we have for that which is greater and higher than ourselves. Karen, would you mind screen sharing just a
Here I go.
little introduction? Thank you so much.
Oh, maybe I can't. I think I can. No, it doesn't look like I can, but I can share the brief clip in the chat, but it doesn't, I have to go through, it did not give me the option of sharing
Really?
on my desktop. Yeah.
I wonder if I can share. Let me try and see if I can share it. Do you need to give me hosting privileges?
You have permission.
Oh, okay. Bear with me for 1 second. This is so new to me.
Oh, wait, maybe I can. No, I can't. It's my Mac. I just upgraded recently, and I think it added some privacy things, and I have no idea what I need to change in my settings.
Okay, Reverend Alex is saying share screen and open YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do this every Sunday.
Karen, are you able to do that?
When I do share screen, I have to go into my Apple system preferences, but maybe I can.
Oh, if not, I might be able to. Let's see. Okay. I think I can. I'm going to play a small bit here from Rabbi Viñas for all of us to just get to know him a little bit. See if I can do this. Can you guys see?
Yes, we can. Oh no, we don't. We only see part of your screen and we don't hear anything. I don't know.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We only see the file.
Okay. Well, let me see. One more. Let me try just one more time. Oh, would I be, Reverend Alex, would I just send you the video? Is that how it work? Okay. No.
No, you would make me host.
Oh, multiple people can share, so I can provide the link.
No, I have the link. I have it open on YouTube. If you can just make me host, I'm happy to share.
Sure.
We'll just do a couple of minutes. I mean, he was gracious enough to do a 22-minute video, which was really wonderful.
So is it this first one?
Maybe we should do the promo video, Karen. Is that the one that's a couple of minutes long? Yeah.
Shalom, Rabbi Manny Viñas. Saludos a todos. Gracias por incluirme. Yo soy el rabino Manny Viñas. Les estoy grabando este video porque no puedo participar en vivo durante el programa que ustedes tienen planeado porque es el segundo día de la fiesta de Sukkot, que es la fiesta de tabernáculos. I'm sending warm greetings to you. I'm greatly honored to be invited to participate in your live forum. I was not able to attend live because it is the Jewish festival of the tabernacles, of the holiday of booths. When we build Sukkot, we build these little tabernacles, these little booths outside of our home as a memory of the exodus from Egypt and the sojourn in the desert. Well, today I wanted to just take a few brief moments to introduce myself and to thank you for including me, especially to Reverend Liza Marquez, who I had a wonderful conversation with, and I really look forward to more and more opportunities to collaborate together. And I'm deeply honored to be in fellowship with all of you. And I thank you very much for including me. I strongly support your efforts in the Global Truth Center in Los Angeles, and especially the work of Reverend Karen Frost of the Spirit Uncensored. So I'm very honored to be in your company.
Thank you, Reverend.
Thank you.
For your help.
Sure, my pleasure.
Yes, thank you so much. So now I want to open it up a little bit, so that we talk about, I love that we talk about our tenets, our faith, our beliefs. But I also want to talk about a little bit about how being a Latino has influenced you, if at all, in your path, or if you have found opportunities or obstacles that have, I never believe that an obstacle or a challenge is anything but a strengthener in your life, right? If you come across something that seems like an obstacle, it only serves to strengthen you in what you have. And I want to open it up now to speak a little bit about being a Latino, Latina, Latinx, Hispanic heritage, and how that has influenced you, like I said, at all, or if it's become any kind of opportunity or obstacle in that way. Anybody would care to speak?
Sure, I'd be happy to speak to that. One good thing, I mean, gosh, it's so horrible to say there's anything good about the pandemic, but since we started doing our meetings online every Sunday, I've been able to bring in friends from Peru and Mexico and Puerto Rico and even Cuba And there are a lot of people interested in New Thought throughout Latin America and in Spain that, you know, perhaps they were raised Catholic, but they kind of wanted more. They wanted something different. They wanted, and so, you know, we definitely respect anyone who is still Christian, or Catholic, and we're also open to having people that want to explore other faiths like Judaism and Buddhism and Islam.
Thank you.
I believe that God uses our own lives and our own context to help us see God more and to help us see one another more. I mentioned that I grew up in South Texas. I came in that farm worker time in the life of my family. So at 12, I was in the cotton fields picking cotton. I remember a day when it was so hard that I thought I was going to die in the cotton field. I certainly felt that the cotton field could consume my life. But then to hear our pastor on Sunday morning literally wake me up, because I was so tired, even as a little girl, sitting there in the third row with my grandmother, and to hear my pastor say, those of you who are working in the fields, God sees you, God hears you, God knows your suffering, and God stands with you. That woke me up in so many ways. And it made me aware of the fact that if God was with us, then who could stand against us? But even more profoundly, a sense of knowing that there were others suffering just like I was suffering. I don't think that it's a coincidence that most of my ministry has been from Brownsville, Texas, all the way to San Diego, up to Northern California. I've been in Oregon as well. And the context has called me and many, many others to speak out in terms of the rights of immigrants, compassion for immigrants, justice for immigrants. And so I'm grateful to God for even the suffering experiences that enabled me now to stand with another person, to stand with our whole community that is not just Latino. The immigrant community is not just Latino, it's from all over the world, but certainly a large number of Latino immigrants. And I'm grateful for the privilege of walking with them and being able to stand as a voice with them and to learn so much from them as well. As I've asked immigrants how they've made it, because you know their stories. You know how much they suffer on the journey of immigration. And when I say, how did you do it? To a one, they'll say, God was with me. The Creator was with me. I was never alone. And there were people of love, loving spirit that all along the journey accompanied me and helped me. What a wonderful thing.
Yes.
If we could be with one another in that way, acknowledging that the Creator of us all is with us, hopes for a different kind of world for every single one of us.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much, Bishop. That's beautiful. I do think that a lot of times we forget, you know, there's not just when we talk about immigration, because, you know, the Latin community, and I would even say the Mexican-American or the Mexican community tends to be the face of it, but immigrants is so much bigger than that, and is understanding the plight, all of us together,
Yes.
to be able to do it. And it sounds to me that your heritage has helped you also kind of have an affinity for helping that, all of it, not just in a
Yes.
particular way. Thank you.
I do believe that our Hispanic Latino heritage is one of community. Inherently, it's about familia and about our being community. Extended family is that sense of being one, beyond just blood relatives.
Yeah.
And I think it's a gift that we should share and treasure.
Yes, I agree. Thank you. Imam Parada, you know, what's interesting for me, Imam, is that you're, I think, the only one on this panel that probably was not sort of born into the faith that you're in right now. And in answering the question that I have asked, would you also mind speaking a little bit about how this might have affected your family, if at all, your conversion into something very different than what they were probably used to?
Yes, to say the least. Yeah, when I accepted Islam, so for my mother and my older sister who have always been connected to the church, they would, interestingly, we have a podcast, and we actually had my sister come on this past Friday, and the reason was talking about it was called dynamics, right? The dynamic relationships that we have within our families, and we were discussing, my older sister and I, how she felt when I became Muslim, because many people don't see that side. They'll hear a conversion story and they're like, oh, that's interesting, but they don't hear how families were viewing that at that moment. So my older sister, you know, was mentioning that she would go in the room with my mother and they would pray for me. They thought that because I had stopped believing Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, that I was going to go to, you know, the hellfire. That's exactly what they were fearing. And I was calling up, you know, family members. Being young, I wanted to tell people, my family, I have a very big family, about becoming Muslim, and family members telling me, I won't let you talk to your cousins if you're going to talk to them about anything about Islam. These were, you know, uncles and aunties that knew me since I was a baby. So I've been taken aback by, you know, that approach from many of my family members, telling my mother and my dad that they didn't raise me right. Some of my, you know, father and my uncles were like, oh, you're going to become a terrorist. So there was a lot of that going on at the time. But I reminded especially my father, I was like, you taught me how to read. You told me to constantly ask questions. So I'm not going to go into something and become some crazy person, right? It just doesn't make sense. You didn't raise me that way. And so they were observing my change, because I was on the streets doing a lot of things that weren't appropriate, that they just saw a switch. And I did change really fast. You know, I went cold turkey in a lot of things that I was doing, you know, from 12 to 19. You know, I lived a rough life. And, but what was unique about it was reminding them, right, of how they raised me. And I was trying to go back to that. And they were like trying to figure out, are you going to become Arab or Indian? They didn't know, because so many Latinos don't know what Islam is, right?
That's true.
So they're trying to figure out, what is he becoming another, you know, is he going to leave off his Latino heritage or not? And my father raised me specifically, like he wouldn't allow us to speak anything but Spanish at home. And he was like, whenever you say your last name, you say Parada, you never say Parada, right? He was very like that. And also I saw them working hard, you know, they were hardworking immigrants. And they always, and my father would remind me, never feel that you're second class. You are Latino, but you are American. So don't let anyone tell you other than that. So that helped me, right? When I became Muslim, I was able to kind of not let that, you know, especially from family, the negativity affect me that way, because I was just proud of who I was in general. And I was thankful that God took me out of a life that wasn't pleasing to him to something that was better. And then I was bilingual at the time and I speak Arabic as well. So in this journey of mine, I've been able to connect with Islam in Spanish. And, you know, the center is where, you know, literally 1 minute away, I kid you not, from driving from my high school. And also Mujahid Fletcher, who's the founder of the organization, we went to rival high schools 1 minute from here. It's our neighborhood. So being able to speak to people in different languages, you know, God says in the Quran, I created you from a father and mother, meaning, you know, Adam and Eve, right? And then spread out in tribes and nations so that you can get to know one another. And really, I've been able to, alongside the team, being able to meet people from all over the world, speaking in different languages, and being able to learn about their culture, learn about their faiths, and vice versa. Because it is unique for people to see a Latino American Muslim. They're trying to figure out what does that even mean? You know, do you come from Arab descent? And then when I start to tell people about, Well, you know, there's hundreds of words that are that are in the Spanish language that come from Arabic. You know, camisa, pantalon, sucar, and things of that nature. That's all Arabic because of, you know, Andalus, right? And the unique, 800 years of, of Muslims governing that area, how people from different, nations and tribes were able to get together for a nice amount of time to get to know one another. And it was a very unique, time in history. So being able to talk to people about, especially Latinos, right, about this message, at the very least, we're able to inform them that, yes, there are a lot more Latinos becoming Muslim throughout Latin America and the States. And in order for us to be able to work together, we have to be open to know that that's happening and not to become afraid, and just to be open to learn. And in that, you're hoping that you can become a more cohesive society. And that's what we try to show with our families, being able to, my sister took me to her church and talked about that message as well. And there were a lot of mouths dropped. Like, how is it that you can be Muslim and Christian and love each other? How does that even make sense? And for a lot of people, it's just new. So it's a unique journey. And this is part of it, right? Being able to be with you all to speak about this.
Absolutely.
If I may, I'd like to sing the praises of the Islamic community here in Washington, D.C., and also the Methodist community, that both of these communities have been so progressive and so on the forefront of the fight for social justice here in Washington, D.C. And of course, one of the pillars of Islam is that acts of charity. And there's just, it's like what I try and encourage people to do is to look at the good instead of looking at the bad. And I encourage everyone, if you have access to Netflix, to see this movie called The Social Dilemma, because it talks about our connection to each other via the internet and how we have to be super, super conscious about spending time away from the internet and getting back to our faith, to nature, to our roots, so that we can come from the positive that is inherent in us. And again, I just see this, I see so much good being done by Methodist people and by Islamic people here in Washington, D.C., that I just wanted to give thanks to both of your communities for that great work that's being done.
Thank you for saying that, Reverend Alex. And I was going to put in the chat, you said it's The Social Connection on Netflix?
It's called The Social Dilemma.
Dilemma, thank you. I wanted to post that on. And also, if you guys would like to post, and we will put this also in our YouTube, but if you would like to post where people can get more information on all of you, where they can go, and I will also be putting that in my Facebook to have that. Thank you so much, because I think this is such a great conversation. Bishop Carcaño, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to thank Reverend Alex for what she has just said. What I have learned along the way in these years of ministry is that one of the best ways for us to become one out of the many is to work for justice. And, justice cuts across all of our beliefs in terms of being a principle of what we believe. And when we do acts of justice together, it is such an opening of the door for us to get to know one another, to trust one another, to be able to share with one another what we believe, and what I like to call, again, a slice of a glimpse of God, of our Creator, and one another's humanity. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. Oops. Thank you. And I noticed, Reverend Alex, your service is bilingual, is that correct?
Correct.
And so when you do the service, is it both, you do it first in English and then in Spanish, or how do you generally do your service?
Spanglish.
Yes. That's awesome. I love it. That's great. And Imam Parada, I know that obviously yours is Islam in Spanish, so yours is done in Spanish, is that correct?
Yeah, so we before the pandemic, we would have two sermons, one in Spanish and one in English. So now we just have one, and it's I'll do Spanish we have different people who do the sermons, so we'll do it in Spanish first for about 15 minutes, and then the next 15 in English. Yeah.
Wonderful. And Bishop Carcaño, I'll ask you the same question. Do you guys do bilingual service? I think traditionally what I've seen in Methodist is they do in English, and then later they do a Spanish service as well. Is that correct? Is that how you guys do it?
We have congregations that are Spanish speaking and some that do bilingual, particularly to make sure that younger people are part of it. But we, in the 370 churches that I have responsibility for, we have about 20 different languages that we worship in and gather around. And many of those churches, Korean, Hmong, Vietnamese, etc., they're also doing bilingual and sometimes trilingual ministries. So languages is one of those gifts/challenges that we're always having to live into.
And I'm curious, Bishop, how did you rise to such a stature? I mean, you just mentioned you have, nearly 350 churches that you have to oversee, and some of them are done in various languages, not just English. I mean, how? I know in reading your bio, you started off very young, feeling the calling from when you were with your father, I think, out in the fields, feeling that calling, and that I think you called it a hug. I think is what a warm hug is what you felt. And what brings you, what makes that choice for you? Or was it was not even a choice, it was just a continuation for you? How did you become a bishop?
Well, let me say that I felt the call to give my life to God, to serve Christ, to be a part of the church at a very young age. It was an experience at 5 where I felt the presence of God in such a way that I felt God's love embrace me. And I felt such joy and such peace that I remember thinking that I always wanted to live in God's house so that I could forever feel that love and that joy and that peace. And so I began to think about how I could make that happen. And it was a process. My parents were very opposed, my father in particularly opposed to my becoming clergy. He didn't think women were called, but I knew ultimately I would be accountable to God even above my father. He later came around and became one of my strongest supporters. But the Methodist Church, the United Methodist Church, also opened many doors for me along the way, enabling me to serve even at the international level at a very young age. I started to serve nationally at 16 when my family didn't even have money to send me to meetings, and I had to say, I can't go, I have no money, and they sent me a ticket, an airline ticket to go, and found ways to support me. And so I am grateful for the United Methodist Church's investment in me that opened the door for me to say yes to God. And I want to do the same for as many other young people as I can, so that the door is open for them as well.
I think that's beautiful. I mean, I believe that when you say yes to something, every path, every step of the way just kind of shows up. And I think that's exactly what you're saying, is the second that you said yes at a very young age, that this was going to be what you chose to do, it just there was an unfoldment, and there was no obstacles. Your father would have been a big obstacle, and yet he wasn't. And then, not having money to go somewhere would have been an obstacle, and yet it wasn't. And here you are now, at such a high ranking and being the first Latina bishop in the United Methodist Church. That's, I mean, beyond words. That's amazing and wonderful.
It is beyond words for me as well.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'm amazed. Every day that I get up, I just thank God for the opportunities and the way that God has opened doors and brought people to walk alongside me to help me.
And I'm sure they would say the same thing about you, that you walk alongside them to help them. I mean, this is such again, like a holding hands community where we all get a chance to lift each other up, no matter what, no matter where you're coming from. And so I will ask this question to Reverend Alex as well. Like, what brought you to decide to become a minister? You had your practitioner's license in 1999. From even then, like, what made you decide to get a practitioner's license?
Thank you. Well, you, since you personally have a little bit of science, well, a lot of science in my background, you may know that we often hear that people find our philosophy when they've hit rock bottom. And that was kind of the situation for me. I was a single mom, and my baby was just 1 year old, and I was really searching for community and, you know, working so hard. And I felt like everything, like a lot of what I was earning was going to pay for daycare for my daughter. And it was just kind of a beacon of light for me at a time when I really needed it. And then I was thirsty for this teaching. And I actually wrote a letter to a woman named Louise Hay, who's pretty famous. And she wrote me back, and she connected me with this New Thought community. And I just, you know, couldn't get enough. I started taking classes, and I found it like a therapy to me. It was just so helpful to me. And I'm actually, now that I've been doing it for 21 years, I feel more called than ever. I mean, it's kind of like I was guided somehow into this direction. And today, I believe in miracles more than ever, because I have just amazing miracles happening in my life, and it reinforces my faith.
Thank you. This is one of the reasons why I also became a minister myself. It was kind of like it just spoke to me, and the truth is, it's not that I was looking for a ministerial license. It's just that I didn't want to be out of the conversation. And then the ministerial license just came along with staying in the conversation and in the teaching. So yeah, I completely understand. Thank you. Imam Parada, can you tell us a little bit about what, I mean, you know, one thing is to convert and then, you know, pay homage to Mecca, and then another one is to become an imam.
When I first went to go study about Islam, my mind was, I didn't have the mindset of coming back to be an imam, or all I ever wanted to do was have the opportunity to talk to, you know, Latinos in general. And I used to do a lot of work with youth as well, you know, about Islam, and just informing people as much as I could. And when I came back, and having already known, you know, people working within Islam in Spanish since its inception, it just made sense to, you know, connect back with the people that I grew up with, and in our neighborhood. And you know, it's the only Latino-led, you know, Islamic center in the United States. And it would only make sense to have a Latino be the imam. And because I was the one out of the group who had studied, you know, the most about Islam, you know, the focus was for me to become the, you know, the educational director, and, you know, just counsel to the youth and to new converts, and even family members who were, again, who had to face their child or their family member becoming Muslim, dealing with that dynamic. So it was somewhat of like of people choosing me to take this position, and without a doubt, it's been a blessing, because even before taking this position, I was also an imam in another Islamic center here in Houston, which was predominantly South Asian and Arab, and they had seen me grow up because I worked with a lot of their youth, you know, and I could relate to the youth because we were children of immigrants, even though most of them were obviously not not Latino. I could, you know, connect with the youth, but also I'm a parent of 8 children. I have 6 daughters, 2 sons, with my beautiful wife of 23 years. And I got married early. I was 20 when I got married.
You don't even look 23, by the way. Like, that's insane. But wow, congratulations. That's great.
Thank you very much. So I was also able to connect with, you know, everyone was older. Most of them are older than me. You know, the older congregants, because I was a parent, so I was able to connect with these different, you know, community members, and so I had experience in dealing with not only, you know, Latinos or, you know, people from, you know, let's say the neighborhood, but also from, you know, people from different cultures and backgrounds, which made it a lot more, I think, unique for us to be able to tell our story, within the Muslim community, and then of course go on beyond that, and then encourage the Muslim community to be, brave enough to go out and tell people about their faith. Obviously, it was tough for them, especially after the tragedies of 9/11 and all these things that have, come up throughout the years. We've been, encouraging the community to, be thankful and proud of who you are, and be able to connect with, your neighbors and community. So it's definitely been a blessing, but it wasn't something I was expecting when I first went when I was 23 to study.
I think we could all say that, everyone here, including Reverend David Allen Cruz, who's on with us as well. Like, you never expect, all of a sudden you're like, wait, how did I get these initials? How did I become this? But I do believe, like, we all want to stay in this conversation of what it is that really calls to us, and that we are so, that fills us. I know that everyone here that has spoken talks a lot about what their faith does and how it fills them, and how, I'm sure you all would agree that you can hear the passion in what is being said by each person, because I know I feel it, and I sense it, and I love it. It makes me even more passionate about continuing a conversation like this. But, I know we're kind of coming a little bit in, so I just wanted to open up to see if there's, I know Reverend Karen had asked if there was any questions out there. If anybody had any questions for our panelists, we would open it up right now just to see. Because if not, I can stay on here and talk, because let me tell you, I'm fascinated. I am so fascinated by all of it. Religions make me so happy, and I get so incredibly fascinated to find out why. Like, why? Tell me more. But I'll open it up if anybody has any questions.
Hi.
Reverend David Allen Cruz and his wife, gorgeous Nada. And happy birthday to you, Nada.
Yes.
It's Wednesday, next Wednesday.
Happy early birthday.
Okay, thank you.
First of all, Liza, congratulations. This is just such a wonderful
Right.
thing that you've organized, and I'm so grateful to you for this work and your inspiration and your ability to create this amazing moment. You might want to get that volume down. And thank you, all of you who are participating in this. I'm learning so much from you, and things that I frankly never thought about. Imam Parada, thank you so much for letting me know there are Latino Muslims. I do know a few, but to know that somebody who dedicates themselves to that, who has similar backgrounds to my background, who said, I came from the streets, I know what it's like, and found this truth that works for me to help the community. Thank you, Bishop Carcaño, for being one of the leaders in spiritual evolution, being one of the first bishops in your particular denomination. So congratulations on that. And one of the things I want to ask the panel, being that you are all members of the Latino community, and at the same time spiritual leaders, how is for you the balance between your spiritual understanding, your cultural heritage, your racial heritage, and, I know this is a lot to ask at the same time, the political elements that are going on right now, in general with the Black Lives Matter movement, and in specific to how it pertains to Latinos. And someone mentioned, I believe it was you, Bishop Carcaño, that with regards to the elements of justice and injustice in our particular society. How is that balance, and how do you find yourselves working with that?
I'm happy to jump in. Just this morning I was talking about connection and how if we choose to see our first connection as our connection to God, and we do that first thing in the morning or whenever we're feeling out of sorts, we take that deep breath and we restore or recognize our faith and our connection to God, then we're more easily able to be effective and respond instead of reacting when a social justice, I'm here in DC. I mean, it's like 24/7, you know. It's just, I just feel, I can feel the energy of the anger and the politics. And when I was sharing my screen earlier, you might have seen that I was watching Saturday Night Live, you know. It's just some kind of relief that you can watch on YouTube, you know, and I think laughter is the best medicine. And I you know, don't mind sharing here that I did see a little bit of karma happening with our president in terms of the denial of COVID-19, and of course I wish him well. I wish him a full recovery, and I think that you know, even if we can't feel that, we can't see God in someone else, we can choose to see God in someone else. So just getting grounded in our faith is the most effective way, I believe, to be constructive in the world.
One of my hopes is that I can be transparent in whatever setting I am. And so I think it's pretty clear that I'm Latina. I use my Spanish as often as I can. It's a bridge language in so many different situations, and my own experience of injustice as a way to deepen, at least open myself up to the suffering of others and to try to accompany others. But it's not always easy. Someone asked me if people follow my leadership, and I would say that on the whole, United Methodist in my area and every area where I have served as a bishop have followed my leadership until I call people to accountability on our being loving and being just and being compassionate and being welcoming of all of God's children. And then the negative words start flying. And I become nothing more than that probable immigrant who came to this country undocumented, and I should go back to where I came from. And I get that not just from United Methodist or not just from Christians, but from people in general when I try to hold up the voice of justice. I received a letter today from one of my pastors saying to me, an email, a letter, that he was concerned about my stand with Black Lives Matter and the movement. And my heart had to say to him, be unafraid. This is tough. Standing for anti-racism is tough work. And yes, I had said and he was responding to the fact that I had said that Black people are still enslaved in this country and compared it to the enslavement of the Israelites in Egypt. And he had become offended and was getting a lot of pressure from his church members. And I said, it is the same. It is the same. It may have a different face, but slavery is very present, and we should be unafraid to stand for justice, to stand for love, to stand for the sacred worth of every child of God is not easy work because of the sin that we live with, because of the sin in the world. But that's the only place we can stand. It is truly the only place where we can stand, and we need to sustain one another in standing in that place. Not a place of arrogance or a place of putting others down or being destructive of others, but a place of naming the truth and calling forth the best in one another out of love for our Creator, love for God, and love for one another.
You know, it's unique that my wife is African-American, so my children are different shades, and I have two sons, and one of them actually is a little bit darker than the other one. And I say that because I never thought about, I mean, when I was younger, I used to get pulled over all the time. I was harassed by police officers. I have many stories of the way that I was mistreated by them that didn't make me, at that time, being young, right, love law, you know, or respect law enforcement. On top of that, growing up in the 90s with certain, you know, hip hop and rap, certain music that was speaking about justice and police brutality, when you don't have guidance, you could become an angry young man. And so having gone through that process as a young person, and then seeing my son who's almost 12, having to speak to him about, in a few years he'll be driving, and the things that really my dad didn't even understand what I was going through. I had to just learn, through experience, that me having to tell him this 20 or almost 30 years later, when he's grown up, it's a bit challenging to imagine that. Growing up in the 90s, I remember I love history and reading about, the civil rights, and I used to I'm really called the human rights, movement, right, of African Americans. And it felt so distant, wow, that was a long time ago. But then looking at it now, it's what has really changed? And something that I've been, speaking to, especially the youth, especially college age and young professionals, is for them to, be aware of this, because many of them didn't grow up in the environment that I grew up in, or the struggle of African American and Latinos, and for them to know about their history, because they are American. They're not Pakistani. They're not, Egyptian. They're not Nigerian. They're Americans. So you have to know your history. You have to know about, Martin Luther King and Cesar Chavez and Malcolm X, to know these struggles, and Rosa Parks, people who have gone through all these struggles, in order for us to be aware of this and be able to speak, with confidence, and, and be brave about it. And being Muslim and Latino, right, especially since, when the new president, when Donald Trump was elected, and there was a lot of fear in both communities. And, we took it, we wanted to focus with our communities about being, confident and brave, sticking to what you believe, because it's taught in our book, and of course in the Bible as well, about justice. And first and foremost, there's a verse in the Quran that mentions that even if it's against yourself, so you first must, look at within yourself, making sure that you're not being prejudiced or racist towards anyone, or you're not looking down upon people because you have a certain social status. So being able to look at oneself first before it's talking about, this group or this person is doing wrong, one must look at themselves first. So being able to, take responsibility that way, and then able to look at our experiences. And it's been a unique journey going through that with our community, and specifically for me, my family. And we hope that we're able to make a change. And it starts with these type of gatherings. People might underestimate them, but really, this can do so much. You never know how it can make an impact in a person's life that can make an impact on many.
Oh my God, so well said. Thank you. And I'm just going to tell you real quick, my computer just sort of shut off the microphone. So now I've taken the iPad away from my children because they were watching from the iPad. So I'm like, give me the iPad. So you guys will hear me from, that's why the other Liza Marquez is lighting up. But thank you guys. I mean, that was so well said, so well spoken from all three of you. And I know one of the things that if and when you go to YouTube to hear Rabbi Viñas's video, you'll hear him talk a lot about this struggle that he has had to have. One of the centers or the synagogues that he was a rabbi in Yonkers. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. At Yonkers that he was actually, because he was really trying to bring in more Latinos and more African-American, more of the Black community into his synagogue. He was getting a lot of resistance from other people in the Jewish community, saying, that this, for some reason, it wasn't, not that it wasn't okay, but maybe we should have a special, different synagogue. And he fought against that, and he said, no, we're just one people here. Like, there is no, once you start looking at, the differences, you're not celebrating the diversity that makes us all unique and the same at the same time. And so he definitely, he fought and continues to fight for the rights of having everybody be acknowledged, and not have to face this racism, and not have to face, being distinguished because of their color. It's really great, but he does talk about it in his video. So thank you guys. And I know that we are coming towards the end of our close, since, you know, I told you guys an hour and 15 minutes and we're right at it. And I have to say, and I know Reverend Karen would say the same thing, we are so grateful that you guys, everyone here, by the way, but especially our guests, were a yes to the conversation, to the communion, to the allowances, to the celebration, to the openness. And I'm just so incredibly grateful for all of it, and for everybody that showed up here today to hear this conversation, to participate in the conversation. And I'm sure you will have questions later on. If you do, I know that people have, Bishop Carcaño, Reverend Alex, and Imam Parada have all put their information on our chats. If you have any further need any further information, and also Spirit Uncensored, we are so happy. Like I said, this is the playground. This is it. This is where we talk about spirit. This is where we play. This is where we have fun. This is where we really get to know each other. And the word commune just keeps coming up for me, because it really does feel like community, and building that and stretching and allowing ourselves to be heard and to hear. And I think that's the most important thing when we want to really come together. So what I would really love to close this out is that I ask that each one of you, each and every one of you, Imam Parada, Reverend Alex, Bishop Carcaño, if you would all just say a little, we call it a benediction, but, a closing out prayer, what have you, in your words. If each one of you could say just a little something, I would greatly appreciate it. I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot, because I didn't really, I didn't tell you I was going to do this, and I actually didn't know I was going to ask, but now I do. So if you guys don't mind, I would really, really appreciate it. Thank you. And whoever wants to start first, I will open it up, and then I'll say a little prayer of gratitude at the end.
Con mucho gusto. And I've had the pleasure of having my kitten here. I know that for the future, I'm gonna lock him up. He's first drank my water, then knocked it over, and you might see him running in the background, but he's adorable.
Yes.
So, what I always like to do is to just bring us to our breath. The breath is such a wonderful way to come into the present moment. Les invito a respirar. Tomar una respiración profunda, inhalar, exhalar. And when we bring our attention to the breath, I invite you to follow your inhale all the way in and follow your exhale all the way out, so that we can easily just come into the present moment and feel and recognize that actually it's God, it's the infinite that is breathing us. So we can relax and let go and surrender to that and know that we are blessed. Sabemos que somos bendecidos ahora mismo al inhalar y al reconocer que Dios es todo y que es Dios que nos está respirando a nosotros. Y así es, and so it is.
A prayer of blessing, that each one of us may go forth with the mercy and the grace, the compassion and the justice of God, our Creator, within us. And that very breath of life that God gives us would restore us on this evening. And as a new day arises, that we may arise to be people of love and justice. Amen.
Amen.
Ask God the Almighty, the creator of the heavens and the earth, to bless every single one of us and our families, to protect us from this pandemic, and that he allows us to strive to be the best servants to him, and that he blesses this event and those who organize it, and that he allows us to move forward and to do great things for humanity as long as we're on this earth. Amen.
And
Meister Eckhart says, if the only prayer you say is thank you, you've said enough. And so I know in gratitude, in truth in gratitude and simply knowing and allowing in this moment right here, just the perfection of what has happened, the inspiration and the expression of so much love, so much peace, so much harmony, so much faith. So I say thank you. I say thank you to each one of you, to Bishop Carcaño, to Imam Parada, to Reverend Escudero, and also to Rabbi Viñas, and to all of you that have shown up here, to Reverend Karen for opening this up for Spirit Uncensored, to every one of you here. I am truly grateful beyond expression and beyond words for this celebration, for this communication, and again, for this commune, where all of us commune together in love and harmony and celebration of our faiths, of our heritage, of our life, of this one source that is everything and speaks in so many languages. I'm grateful, grateful, grateful as I release my word in pure perfection and say thank you. Thank you to each and every one of you. So it is, and so I am. I want to thank you guys again. I hope that you will be a yes. I would love to do this again. This was so wonderful, so fun, and such a great conversation. Again, I know it was very last minute, so each and every one of you saying yes, you know, the guests, participants, thank you. And for all of you who attended, thank you. Muchísimas gracias porque han venido aquí hoy con nosotros. Se lo agradezco muchísimo de mi corazón al corazón de ustedes. Se lo agradezco mucho. Thank you all. Thank you, Reverend Karen. Is there any words that you'd like to say from Spirit Uncensored?
You know, I'll just add so you all know that next Sunday at 5 p.m., our Sunday Night Live events occur on the second Sunday of every month. And so next Sunday at 5, we are celebrating Coming Out Day. And so a friend of mine, Sean, who is has a long relationship with the Centers for Spiritual Living, but is not technically a practitioner, but lives this teaching. And Sean is a consent educator and also gender and sexually fluid as well. So we'll be having this conversation of both coming out, but also coming out with our own individual faiths as well. And with so many people of different faiths. And Isa Parada mentioned this earlier of being out about what we believe, who we are. So we'll be having that discussion next Sunday at 5 o'clock on Zoom. And I really do want to thank Reverend Liza for putting this together, for ensuring that Spirit Uncensored is creating a space to support Hispanic-Americans and to really highlight. This was a really important conversation, and I'm really grateful that I got to participate in it. Thank you all for choosing to participate. Thank you so much, Bishop Carcaño and Isa Parada and Reverend Alex Escudero for joining, and thank you for your great question, David Allen Cruz. I'm grateful for this entire experience.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Thank you.